So I had COVID and I'm just recovering from it. It's day 15 today, and I felt I want to share my experience with you guys, how I went through it. On one hand, because when I was going through it, I watched a lot of other people's experiences and I felt it helped me a lot, not because I'm going to go through the same thing, but it does give you a bit of perspective when people kind of talk about their symptoms and their severity. And on the other hand, because my symptoms were quite unique, because I only had gastrointestinal symptoms. I had no cough, no breathing issues, nothing along those lines. And I was basically just struggling with tummy issues, lack of appetite, vomiting, everything else that I don't want to go into too much detail about, combined with a nasty fever. Right? It didn't go as high as some people report, never went over 39, but it went in the higher 38. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about my symptoms a little bit and how I dealt with them. I'm going to talk about how I think I contracted it. And I'm going to give you a little bit like a summary of a day-to-day progression breakdown, how it was for me. I'm going to leave timestamps down in the description, so if you only want to watch the day-to-day progression or whatever, then you can click that timestamp now. You don't have to watch the whole video. But let's start with the symptoms. Like I said, to me it felt like a really strong stomach bug. Okay, that's how I felt. And the biggest issue that I had was that I had no appetite. I just couldn't eat with any joy, in the sense that anything you eat, I'm trying to eat vegetables and, a little bit of meat, very gentle to my tummy. It feels like you're chewing on like a bag that's filled with sand, and you're like, you just don't want to eat it. Or imagine maybe you have a handful of mushrooms and they're mold, okay? You can see the mold on top. Now you're gonna have to stuff that in your mouth and chew it and swallow it and keep it down. Because when I went through it, I was just permanently fighting against the desire to vomit. Anything I did, certain positions of the body when I was cleaning out the dishwasher or whatever, it triggered the stomach immediately and I was trying to vomit. It was terrible. So you're permanently in this fight of trying to keep your food down. And anything you do eat, it feels really just like torture. It was not fun. However, I was lucky enough that I could keep liquids down fairly well, right? I drank so much water, and I recommend that to anyone if you're going through it right now. Make sure you are hydrated. I feel that was like the main thing that helped me get better. I drank, what is this, like 1.5 liters. I drank, I think more than 3 every day. So 2 bottles of that size, finish them completely, and then drink more, okay? Also, you really have to make sure that you stay on top of your nutrition, okay? For 2-3 days, if your body is just flushing everything through and you know how it is, no details, but you can get these drinks that are fairly expensive. I don't want to promote any brand. This one is called 40 Sip. There are different ones. They're fairly expensive, but this whole drink, that little 125 ml, includes basically everything, all the nutrition from a full meal. So that helped me, right? I could drink those drinks, and at least I felt that my body kind of gets what it needs in terms of nutrition. And also, don't forget to take your electrolytes, okay? So here in the UK, you get the diarrhea, whatever it's called. Again, I don't want to promote these products, but it's just a little powder sachet. You put it in water, drink it, and it gives your body salt, right? Because this is all stuff that you lose a lot when you are not eating properly, basically. So that helped me. And on top of that, across-the-counter fever reducing medication, ibuprofen I took. I know that's not very good for the stomach, but it didn't really conflict with my stomach so much, I felt. Paracetamol, obviously, and I responded very well to those. And then you just basically have to wait it out. And I think one aspect that is not mentioned enough is the psychological aspect of lying there and knowing that some people suddenly from one day to another just get significantly worse, and that you could be next, and that tomorrow could be the last day where you're at home and then you're off to the hospital. Every day that's on the back of your head, because some people have that progression. So that just builds an enormous wall in your head, which is really bad, because it's been proven that, for example, fear can affect the immune system, right? It can lower the immune response. So lying there and constantly worrying about whether you survive the next week is really not helpful. But unfortunately, I think that is actually part of the progression to an extent. That's just how it is. You can't really stop it. You will think about this. On the other hand, it kind of puts your body into a fighting mode where you're like, I gotta fight as hard as I can so this doesn't happen, whatever. It's an ambivalent situation. It's tricky, but I feel it's something to be aware of while you're lying there. Just control your thoughts a little bit. Try to not get completely crazy, because the truth is, if you are, 45 or under, or 50 probably even, the chances that you will actually die from this are so minuscule, 99 point something percent, you're going to make it through somehow. Yes, you might need to go to hospital and you might need oxygen for a few days, but you will recover and you will be fine. So I think that's also like a thought that helped me a lot in watching a lot of people's videos who have recovered, to see, look, people are coming out of this on the other end. It's not that murderous Ebola virus or whatever that has an incredibly high death rate. So keep the perspective and try to not get too negative, and you will probably be fine, even it doesn't feel like it at some points in this. So I'm going to talk about how I got it. And it's a tricky story because, to be honest, we were as careful as you can possibly be. We didn't meet any people indoors for months, pretty much for the whole year. We didn't meet people indoors. There was like one time in a zoo where we did eat, and it's like we didn't go to restaurants. We didn't do anything. When I go to the supermarket, normally we had groceries only delivered. I went once to the supermarket, and that was like just before closure at 11, so it's just an empty giant supermarket. So there were no human contacts before we got this disease where we could say, oh yeah, that was a risky moment, or that might have been risky. Obviously, I always wear a mask wherever I go, really. So obviously we try to nail down potential moments where we might have caught it. And there are only two moments that come to mind, and that is 4 days before the symptoms started, we had pizza, and we picked that pizza up in the restaurant. Now, restaurants here are closed. That pizza shop is empty. It's a big shop. There's just a counter in the middle and nobody else in that shop. I go inside. There's one pizza baker. So I'm like, here's my order. I leave the pizza place, wait outside, obviously always with a mask on. So I was in that shop maybe for 1.5 minutes. However, I did notice that day, that pizza baker, he was alone. There was nobody else helping him, which is already an indicator that maybe some of the other, because it's a family-run restaurant, and I know the people who work there. So I was wondering where everybody is. Obviously, I didn't ask, but it was already a bit suspicious. So that also meant that this pizza guy had to make an enormous amount of pizza for everybody, and he was rotating. And he was like, I ordered a few pizzas. He's like, yeah, that's a 40-minute wait. I was like, great. So that means he's rotating at a very high speed. Probably won't take 20 seconds to properly wash his hands. Who knows? If he was positive at the time, he closes our pizza box. I come back later, pick up the pizza box. I literally just go in, take the pizza box, pay. Less than 30 seconds, I'm in this shop. Go home with my family, we eat the pizza, and that was probably the mistake. We ate it out of the box. We didn't put it on a plate, on a separate plate. Ate it out of the box. So that is one possibility, that we got it from that pizza box. Guy closes it, didn't wash his hands properly. We rub it, basically eat it, ingest the virus. The other possibility is a grocery delivery, okay? Because all our groceries were delivered, and here in the UK, the grocery deliveries are very, professional. You do it outdoors. The guy keeps his distance, so there's literally no chance. I mean, the guy was like 3 meters away at all times from me. He's wearing a mask. I'm wearing a mask. All I do is I'm not even talking to him. I just put my groceries in the bag and carry them upstairs. So I don't think I got it from him, but maybe I got it from the groceries. Maybe there was something on the groceries. So I'm going to be honest with you. I think the only way we got this is with, what do they call it, a smear infection, right? Touch somewhere and then touch your eye, or eat it, put it in your mouth somehow. There is literally no option or contact that I can think of where I met a person even a month before the symptoms started, where I would have been close enough without a mask that an infection would even be possible. So it must have happened through the smear infection. And what does that tell us about this virus? I don't want to spread panic or anything, but it tells me, we're in the UK, we've got the new variant. By the way, they're not telling us if we got the new variant or another one. Presumably it's the new one, and it tells me that it is probably way more contagious on surfaces than the previous variant. We were very careful before. We always wiped down our groceries when they came. I stopped doing that about 6 months ago. So for 6 months, we just took the groceries, put them in, kind of trusting that it wouldn't transmit through surfaces. And it didn't until this new variant supposedly comes around the corner, and now we must have caught it either from a pizza box or from groceries. Obviously, I'm not a virologist, so this is not a scientific study, but that's my experience and my observation. And I can only recommend you to be extra cautious. If you live in an area that has many, many cases, like I do, you should be careful with what you touch and what you put to your mouth. And again, we were very careful. We always disinfected our hands all the time and really did what we can to not catch this. We caught it anyway. And funny enough, you obviously speak to doctors and stuff, and they say the same thing. They're like, yeah, we hear that story quite a bit. And the other puzzling thing is that my wife's symptoms started on the same day as mine, which indicates that we got it at the same time probably. She was not in the pizza place, okay? So if it's the pizza, it's really funny. It's like you trace it back and it really makes no sense. But again, there are quite a few people reporting the same thing, being overly cautious and then catching it anyway. But in conclusion, I really cannot tell you really 100% where I caught it. It remains a mystery. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about my day-to-day progression and how it all started. Because on the first day, I'm getting it out, you should do the same thing. You know, if you're in this situation going through this, you should make yourself like a little diary of what happened every day. It helps you to keep your head sane and to track back how bad and severe your disease actually was. Because especially when you have fever, days blur into one and it's really messy. It's good to keep it like in a nice order for you to remember, understand, and then you can analyze it. So the way it started for me was really just like a stomach bug. I woke up one morning and I felt a little bit, my stomach was upset, right? I felt a bit like I wanted to vomit. I didn't want to eat. Went away throughout the day, and by the evening I was well again, right? I was just sitting there playing video games, eating junk food. I don't remember what I did, but I just had a normal evening, while the morning was just a little bit rough. Then the next day, it felt like a more severe stomach bug, right? I was just feeling I ate something bad. I didn't think it was COVID because I had no cough. At this point, I had no fever. I just had like aches a little bit and nausea and I couldn't eat, no appetite. So I was like, no, I got a stomach bug. What did I eat? Trying to think. Then the third day, my fever started. I was still vomiting and it got quite violent at this point. Like I said before, you're always fighting the urge to not throw up all the time. I was walking like this, so I don't feel the urge. When I lie down, I had to lay down flat on my back, because then somehow my stomach didn't feel that upset. Day 3, the fever went up to nearly 39, 38.8 I had in the evening, and I had tingly sensations in my fingers. It's a weird thing about COVID. You get all kinds of sensations you never had before, at least for me. Like, for example, I took a shower one day and I felt fine in the shower, but every 5 seconds it was like a wave from top to bottom. Literally, you could track it through the whole body of discomfort. It's like a stripe of discomfort, like every 5 seconds. Really weird. I never had that in my life. And there, day 3, tingles in my hands, in my fingers, right? It felt like pins and needles. Day 4, the fever got down a little bit, but the next 4-5 days were just kind of the same. And the way this works for me is it's like a rubber band. You feel a bit better, then you feel worse. Then you feel a bit better, you feel a bit worse. And it goes back and forth all the time. And sometimes the fever goes up and you take a paracetamol, then you feel fine, and then the paracetamol wears off and you keep feeling fine. You're like, yeah, that's 7 hours ago. I feel good now. And then in the evening it gets worse again. And it just bounces up and down all the time. Now, for me, the biggest struggle was obviously that I couldn't eat. So I lost around 7 kilos in like 10 days, which is brutal. However, I always try to eat. At every meal, I tried my best to make a soup or whatever. Also for the kids, because while I was sick, I had to care for the kids. And force myself to eat just a little bit so I get some nutrition. On top of that, again, these nutrition drinks, I took those, and then kept myself hydrated. And somehow I drank. So, for example, I did not have any headache. And I think that was mainly because I drank about 3.5 liters of water a day. But as I said, it then went like through to day 6, 7, 8. And I was still not feeling good. I was still struggling heavily. The desire to vomit was omnipresent. It never went away. The lack of appetite was always there. That was just horrible because you don't know when it ends, how much longer it might go on. And then my wife's symptoms worsened. So on day 9, she was hospitalized because she had respiratory issues. She's asthmatic and she's 40. So, she was starting to develop struggling to breathe. So we called paramedics and they came really quick. 5 minutes they were here, looked at her. Her values were good, the oximeter values. You should get one of those, by the way, as well. Little oximeter, you clip it on your finger, it measures the oxygen levels in your blood. Her oxygen levels were okay, but they decided to take her in anyway, and that was a good decision because her symptoms worsened quite significantly over day 9, 10, 11. She was in like for 48 hours, then they let her go because the oxygen values were good, but she's still weak, she still can't breathe properly. It's now day, I think, 15, 16 or something. She's still resting a lot. It's getting better. We're all well. It's all fine. But that was very scary, because when you are at home and you are sick yourself and you're having a fever, you can't eat, you're weak because of that. You have 2 kids running around who, by the way, have no symptoms. They just want to party. So you're going to have to cook for them. You're going to have to keep the house a little bit clean. You have to just look after the kids while you feel like you're dying and while your wife was just brought to hospital. So that was bad. That was really nasty. And I want to thank some people on Reddit here, because I did write a few threads on Reddit, of, hoping that someone can help us out, because I was so worried that my symptoms would get worse, right? Because my wife is already in hospital. If she stays there for a week and the next day my symptoms worsens and I need an ambulance, need to go to the hospital, who looks after the kids? These are the thoughts that go through your head. And it's really torturing. It's psychological terror. It really is, because if you read about this disease, there are these scenarios where people just worsen from one day to the other. And within like 6 hours, they go from all right to really bad. It doesn't happen often, and it's very unlikely that it would happen to you, but it happens, and it's in the back of your head, and it's terrorizing you. And all that combined with the kids and stuff, it was quite a ride. So, and then it went through to day 9, 10, and sometimes I still had the desire to vomit in the morning. That was always there, but then throughout the day it got a bit better and I started to feel a bit better. And by day 10 I could definitely feel an improvement. Okay, I felt better, right? I was optimistic. I was like, okay, we're getting there. I'm still struggling. But then day 11 hit me hard again. Like on day 11 I felt much worse than on days 6, 7 and 8. However, then I woke up on day 12 and I felt great. Like, it was just such a relief. That day I woke up and it just felt like 90% of it was gone. Obviously, I still have some lingering issues. My sense of smell is a bit distorted. Like, I can taste and I can smell. But some stuff tastes a bit different and it's a bit odd. Again, it's a funny experience. It's not really funny, but you know what I mean. It's an interesting experience, a sensation I never had. You see a toast being toasted and you know how it smells, but it smells differently. It's slightly distorted. It's fine. Maybe I'll do another video in the long run where I talk about the lingering symptoms, if there are any, and how we recovered over the coming months. But this is basically the story. That's the video, guys. I'm sure there are a million things that I forgot to mention, but if you have any questions, if you want to share your experience where you are right now, please leave that down in the comment section. I'm happy, to answer your questions as good as I can. But again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not giving any medical advice. This is just basically a report of how it was for me. And maybe if you have similar symptoms, it can help you to get through it a bit better. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I hope you had fun. Smash the like button. Subscribe for more. I hope to see you on the channel more often. Thanks for watching, and I'm out. Bye. Stay hydrated. Take care of yourselves.